Welcome. So today I will be talking about stakeholder alignment. My name is Andriy Lokotosh. I don't have a slide which describes me, but I can briefly talk about myself. So I'm a solution architect, and I decided to go into that role 3 years ago, or four, I don't know. And I don't regret about it. I think it was a good choice for me. I learned a lot. I'm also certified not only in Salesforce, but also in other architects certificates. So this is a brief agenda. We'll talk about how to ask the right questions, how to frame the scope of the requirements, then how to document your solution, and there will be Q&A. So sorry, 3 years without practice is so long time. So the problem statement. So easy to do in one screen. So the problem statement, first one, I think that stakeholder management is an alignment is one of the hardest things for the architects. The communication strategy, building the trust and long-term relationship, it's really hard. You easily can learn hard skills like how to architect on Salesforce platform, but how to communicate, how to manage your stakeholders, and 6 months left, you boom on another project, you need to start again. That's a challenge. Next one, business and product owners, sometimes they struggle to formulate the business requirements, and usually there are a lot of misalignments, even inside one company. For example, right now I'm working on Yamaha Motors, and sales department, marketing department, they are not aligned at all, and that's a big problem. So another one, it often happens that multiple stakeholders, even from same department like sales, they are not aligned. So they are not in the same page. They don't understand each other. It's just hilarious. And you as architect, you need to judge and you need to help them. And last but not least, we as architects have limited time, and we need to precisely detect the group of your stakeholders. You will not have a time to everyone, to the developers, to all business analysts, to the POs, especially on enterprise projects. So this is formal goals for this session. There is two informal goals. I will try to give you hints how to sound more proficient and how to act more proficient. And another one, I will show you how architects think. And later you need to decide, do you want to go in that path, or you're totally fine just doing development or leadership? So it's up to you. Let's go. Oh, and the quote. I like that quote. Being architect, it always man in between business and delivery. And don't expect that everyone will like you, because eventually you will say no to business or delivery. Do you agree? No. And yeah, when I try to prepare this presentation, I don't want to just talk. I want to hear you as well. So there will be some formal communication between you and me, and you need to say what you think, or maybe I'm wrong, or you have a better idea, so be prepared as well. So know your stakeholders. your stakeholders. And first one is IT department. This is security, compliance, infrastructure. It's really strange guys, but still a lot of discussions with them. Then delivery. This is the product owners, delivery managers, maybe scrum masters, project managers. Next one, technology. So we have CTO, we have enterprise architect, domain architect, tech leads. The last one, the business. So it's the train leads, program leads, directors, and owners. I frame it into four, maybe can be more. So you see, there is no developers. It's not because we don't like to talk with developers, but it's just not always we have time for that. So we talk with tech leads, team leads, and we suppose that they will help us. So to identify stakeholders, I'm using 4-level architecture. It's adjusted C4 model from architecture use. And it looks strange, but I will explain to you. So level 1 is an enterprise context. That's huge screen which describe all systems which is connected to each one. Can be integration landscape, data landscape, whatever. The next level, level 2, is solution landscape, where you have Salesforce in the center and all other systems which is around and connected to Salesforce. Level 3 is the platform components. So inside your Salesforce, you have Service Cloud, you have maybe community, maybe sales, right? But what inside Service Cloud, we will take a look. And last one is level 4, which is implementation code. I like to ask senior developers and tech leads, show me your diagrams as well. So level 1 is enterprise architecture. Yeah, that's scary, I know. It's hard to find Salesforce, but it's here. And eventually everyone probably will become enterprise architects if they want to. It's super hard role, but still, when you work on that level, you need to also identify your stakeholders. Usually it's IT department, program directors, CTO, domain architects. Level 2 is solution architecture. As I said, Salesforce in the center has multiple platforms around it. And yes, you can structure it much better with a middleware or any other platforms. But typical stakeholders, again, IT department, other solution architects, train leads, enterprise architect, product owners, and for you, really important is the program directors like marketing, sales, service. Level 3 is a platform architecture. It's everything about Salesforce, even if it's custom. So, for example, asset management. It can be something standards, but a lot of on top of it, maybe file management, payments. And for you, typical stakeholders is product owners, business analysts, Salesforce solution architects. And the last one, software architecture. Yes, I know Salesforce is not about the software, but when you work, and next speaker will tell about the package managed packages, and you have 5,000 classes in your project. It's time to start documenting it. It's time to start, to create diagrams, which is explain execution flows, sequence of executions, transaction controls, and other diagrams. So when you work on that level, your typical stakeholders is solution architect, technical lead, senior developers. So I think it's clear, right? So why I show this to you? You will not find the time to interview all stakeholders, so find those who you can ask the right questions and get the answers. So what type of questions? I usually work on level 3 or 2. And for me, right, questions would be three different groups. First one, align on business strategy. When I'm joining the project, I want to know what exactly they want from the market. What is their business drivers? What is their business goals? What is their business objectives? And here's example. So what is a business driver? It can be intentional or any external change or impact which driving the company to do something. For example, tax increase in country or attrition of the customers. That's driving company to start something good. The goals. They want to build a market in the US, right? Right goal or grow 20%, increase the profit by 1 million. This is just a goal. Another one is objectives. So what is the business objectives? This is how they need to achieve the goals. So for example, decrease sales operation cost by 35%. Yes, I ask these questions because I need to know that the project will be eventually successful. And to make sure it's successful, I'm also asked about measure of success. That's odd question, but it's actually tell how proficient and mature the business. So when you ask these questions and there is no answer, just leave the project. I'm serious, because if you're working with the POs, you don't know what is their business strategy, you don't need this project. It's just, you're wasting the time. You can do service cloud implementation, but how it helps, you don't know. The measurement, right? So here's some percentages. It's good measurement. What they want eventually. For example, a good one, system should be able to process 3 million of price updates in 24 hours without any issues. So other systems reaching to Salesforce 3 million times per 24 hours. That's nonsense, right? But still good measurement, and you can say no, Salesforce is not good platform to do that. And there is a long-term vision. I like this question. So how do you see this process in the future when SAP system will be onboarded, or if there will be, how you see that, in long term? For example, you want to right now implement CPQ, what will be in 5 years? And what I learned, a good architect asks questions which there is no answers at all. So you just ask questions, and silence, that means you in good spot. So let's continue. Let's try to frame this scope. We ask the questions, and now we need to organize the scope. When you see PPT on the slide, what does it mean for you? Probably PowerPoint, right? No, it's people process technology. So I like this template because it's super simple. It just helps you to align with the stakeholders without any complex explanations. So people who impacted or who will be onboarded, real humans, real end users, the process. Is it a new process? You introducing a new process, or how the current one will be changed? And last one is technology. Which technology you need in order to achieve this? Do you need CPQ? Do you need a marketing cloud? I don't know. But it's also good to mention what change do you expect on the technology level. So let's look into example. Change management. Just raise your hand if you have governance on your project. Change management. You don't like when the users do changes in production, right? It's stupid. It's causing a lot of problems. So I'm introducing change management on governance level. Who will be impacted? Of course, business and users. Of course, maybe product owners, because they understand business better. They think they can change field on a production. Maybe QA engineers, maybe Salesforce developers, and I think we need to onboard Salesforce administrators. What this process is about? So I think we need to establish this process for Salesforce to guarantee the project delivery with expected deployment result. That's clear, right? If there is no change in production, I deploy my changes, minimum risk. I don't expect any issues. All nice. So functionally, it's good for the platform, but for the business user, they think I'm limiting them. So I'm saying, look, I propose to onboard Salesforce system administrators who will be qualified to support the business, whatever you want to change. But also I'm saying, I pull in additional metadata from production into version control, and I'm saying, look, no longer you will be able to change it. Yeah, do you understand it, right? It should be easy. So technology, in terms of the technology, I think I'm okay with Jenkins. I just need to enhance it. Maybe some scripts will be updated. So people, process, technology, you can do it. So here's time for you, lead management. Let's try. It's just a green text. Don't look at it. There is no clicks. Lead management. Who will be impacted on people's side? Links non-users. Well, sales department. Marketing. That's fine. The process. How the process should look like. So maybe lead conversion, right? Lead scoring. What else? Duplicates. You understand? We explain the process. And in terms of technology, if we don't have a proper marketing platform, maybe we need to introduce marketing platform. We need to maybe purchase something additionally from Salesforce. This is a technology. That one is simple, but it's also powerful. If you're talking with your stakeholders and you need to just frame the scope of some business requirement, this is the good one. Next one is a bit complex, but still good one. I call it context and sort, because it explains the context, but also it explains objective, rational, scope, and timeline. Hard, right? But enterprise architects like this. So I learned that this is very useful. Will be not boring, but I will explain in details just a bit. Consumer data platform. Anyone on the project working with a consumer data platform? So this is platform, not Salesforce, can be Salesforce, but which is about consumer data. About how to collect data in one place, make it as it called data as assets, so the company can use it and maybe build insights, build the audiences. It's really powerful. So that slide explain the context, what it about, right? Because the company going into digital transformation, consumer centric. They want to multiple systems collect different pieces of consumer data. They want to have one platform which has everything. Objectives is I forgot what is objectives. It's actually like the key goals of the program. Why you need it. Rational is exactly explaining the reason behind everything what explained this program, right? Because they want trustful data, usable data with a good quality. There is no sense to just bring data into one platform if you cannot trust it. It's also explained the scope, what will be scope of the project, and the timeline dependencies. Any questions? No? It's free. It's for you. You can use it or not, but it's definitely powerful. Um, let's take a look into the CPQ solution. So just try to imagine the context will be okay. I'm going to have a tool to configure maybe price, products, prices, and quotation, right? Why I need this? Because our solution is now limited and blah, 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 right? So you put different objective and rational and also scope of the project. Will it be only for internal users or maybe for the partners, timeline, and any dependencies on other platforms. So I closed the chapter on framing the scope. You frame the scope with the two templates. One is a framework, one is just a template, and you can go to your stakeholders and just validate it. Is it something what you're asking, really? And even you can go to enterprise and that as well. Last one is documentation. So typically when I'm joining the project, there is no documentation at all. And I'm asking, okay, like you pay the architect yearly salary and there is no documentation, what is going on? And I'm glad that I can come to that person and say, you are dumb. Because you worked it so hard and you're not leaving me anything. And when stakeholders coming to me and asking what the heck he did 2 years ago and why we have a problem with that solution, I don't have the answer. So for you to have the answer, you need to think about documentation. And besides many valuable artifacts, like maybe ERDs or integration landscape or security, I propose also to consider this one. So first is a context and problem statement. So you again explain what is the context of business task, what is the business objectives, what is expected outcome, just purely on a business level. Then you look into non-functional requirements and quality attributes. What is non-functional requirements? This is something what business doesn't ask. They ask a tool, but you ask, what about performance? What about security? How should it perform? For example, Experience Cloud page with a CPQ configurator should open in 2 seconds. Someone who might work with the CPQ, it's really ridiculous because it's working so slow, but still it's a valid one. Maybe scalability, the integration we should build eventually should support up to 2 million data request operation in 24 hours. Then assumptions made and clarified. So for example, you work it with the stakeholders, with the business owners, and there were some assumptions from you. For example, we're not doing it because we wait in MuleSoft to be onboarded as a middleware or ESB tool eventually. So that's why we're not doing it. You just put this into the documentation. Later you just hands up. No, sorry, you validated those assumptions. Alternative options related. An example was CTI, Service Cloud CTI. So not only one tool like Salesforce Voice, but maybe you consider this Genesis, Vortex, any other options. Then you explain pros and cons of those options. What was the pros of Genesis? What was the cons of Voice? And then you explain decision outcome. So you selected Salesforce Voice because supported in those countries, native solution, and blah, blah, blah. Decision constraints, very important one. You need to put the constraints into that document because later, if someone will come and say, what the heck, now we cannot do this, you propose the best solution, you will tell, okay, this was a constraint. And sorry, but that was selected. So you put the constraints, for example, on Salesforce voice, one of the constraints for specific license is 2,000 minutes per agent. The last one, risk and dependencies. So you define the risks that it can break in specific conditions, or the risk of delivery, or a risk of some maybe, I don't know, dependencies, right? Dependencies on any other team. So we just put it into documentation, and now you are safe. Not only you align it, but also you save it. So quick summary. First, of course, you identify the stakeholders. It's not mentioned there, but I explained it why it's important. Then you ask right questions, and questions which developers will not ask. Business analysts may ask, but again, it's up to you, trust to them, you know. You basically, you ask the questions to discover and investigate the real reason for the project. And this is the part when you think, okay, I don't understand what this project is about. I'm saying no. And you should have the right to say no. You're not working with something what doesn't mean for you. And you really easy can go to upper manager of this product owner and say, look, he proposed me something but doesn't have sense at all. It doesn't have value for the customer, doesn't have value for the company. Then if you think that it worth it, you discover and you frame that scope into one of the format. It can be PPT or context and sort. And you can go to the stakeholders and say, is it real your ask? If yes, you start working, and later on, it's not only be documenting technical details, but also you put that risk, constraints, related options, and many other, and that means in future you are safe. Guys, this is all. I asked you to, I promised you to ask you questions, but I'm ready for your questions. What do you think about it?
Guys, do not hesitate to ask questions. We always have some beautiful gifts. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. My question is, if you have a case when you decline project in case of maybe there were no alignment strategy or there were no.
I was not like I'm declining the project. I was asking questions which giving obvious answer that this project doesn't need the architect. It's totally okay if project is small, is mid to small size, and they don't need architect. They maybe need delivery manager, maybe need good business analysis, but they don't need architect. But with my resource manager, I'm transparent. I'm coming and say, look, I don't like this project, and maybe I'm declining. But to the customer, I'm not saying it. I have one question to you. Did you have a problem with the stakeholders? Just raise your hand. Maybe with because there's a different types. Can be business analysis. It can be product owner. Like they asking something, right? But eventually, it's not something what they need to ask. So it's typical, right? Maybe those two templates is really strong for the developers, and they are more for the architects. But people process technology is a simple one. You even can like train yourself. So there is an ask, what is it about? What will impact on people? What will be impact on the process and technology? Any other questions? Yes?
So obviously you were involved in lots of different projects. So did like all of the customers envision the same set of skills, the same set of responsibilities in architect, or like some of them thought that they are going to get just a very skilled developer and that's it, or like almost all of them had a good vision what they are going to get.
No, there is no vision, almost no. Like maybe if the company is a enterprise one and they like have ability to compare. So they looking for Salesforce architect, but they already have Java architect, MuleSoft architect, so they can compare it, right? They have some level of expectation. But for someone who is like don't have expectation, it's really hard. And I didn't want to say this, but there is a big problem of being young architect. The main problem is that till the time when you turn on the camera, you can sound smart, but when you turn on the camera and everyone see that you are 27, 30 plus years old, sometimes things change the game. You hearing, oh, you're so young, oh, how you did that? And the problem is that if the business don't trust you as architect, it's not good. So you as young architects need to find the tools and communication strategies to influence the business and say, look, I know what I'm doing, not just because I'm Salesforce architect, but I know what you need. I'm thinking that you're going in the wrong direction. I'm here to help you. And this is what I propose. Any other questions?
So was there a situation when you opened the camera and they were like, oh, sorry. We don't need your solutions.
No, sorry, but eventually there was like, okay, you are young, like, but I know that I'm young. Why are you telling me this? There was no like refusing. I didn't have situation. I heard that there was situation with one of our architects. Customers like, because in CV they don't describe it, but customers like, why are you proposing me 30 years architect? It's just nonsense. I have people who work in a company 15 years. I have architects who is a 55 plus. Like, why are you proposing me 30 years architect? That was not my case, but 2 weeks ago there was a situation like, oh, I didn't know you're so young. Like, and it's not. It's okay to hear, but when you deliver something what they expect, right? You help the business, but sometimes the trust, it's hard to build the trust just because of the age. So that's why I propose looking to this what I just shared.
Any answer?
You mentioned about problems with stakeholders, and I faced multiple a few times in my career. So, for example, expectations of head of marketing and head of sales are completely different regarding some part of functionality, especially campaigns and leads. This part of functionality was because of further bad processes in our business. Each of them sees only one side of this process. And how do you recommend to resolve this part? Because I have spent too much time for meetings with these two guys just to align the expectations. But actually, that's awful. And for now, my basic assumption is just to skip such projects and to avoid participating.
Good question. Probably I don't need to bring them here to it, but what can I say? Well, I always start with something big. I ask big questions because when you start with the big questions, it's high chance that you find the alignment. What eventually you want, because sales and marketing in some place they will be aligned. Like, what is the goal? Do they want to increase the profit? or they want to increase their customer base, those kind of things. And then, of course, we work in Salesforce. We need to know Salesforce capabilities, to say, look, this is not in Salesforce capabilities. We're ready to look other solutions. But when you align it with something big, and then okay,
Other questions, guys?
no.
Okay, so thank you very much.
This was one question.
Question online. So Yuri, would you like to unmute and go ahead, or would you prefer?
Yeah, sure. I
Okay.
can ask. Yeah, actually, I have a question regarding documentation. How do you maintain documentation with the time, and do you do it at all? Like,
Yes,
Uh,
it's a good one. Usually we have, usually I work on a project level tickets. So developers work on the user stories. I work on a project level, then below their epic level. So what I do for the project level, in order to get the budget, you organize like the whole presentation, which actually contains those one or two slides like context and smart. So you describe from business standpoint like what is the ask, and after that if business case approved, you also add your solution, which contains hard artifacts like landscape, use the landscape data flows, maybe network security. The level below are delegated to the team leads and templates, and I'm asking them, please prepare this for me. Another advice is the governance process, because if you need to pass the design review board before actual implementation, this is kind of documentation, right? You come into the design review with a proposal solution. If it's approved, you don't need to put a lot of time to the documentation. So hope it helped you.
okay, thanks.
And I think you guys are on mute.
Can be not part of this Jira ticket. Maybe on an epic level, yes, but still it can be a bit blurry. But as I said, with the non-functional requirements, for example, sometimes business just ask one thing, and as architect, with the help of business analyst, you discover many more. And you come into them and say, this is what you asked it, and he like, yes. So a lot more than he expected in the beginning. Should it be documented in one epic? No, it should be in a specific format. We use Confluence. I think everyone uses Confluence. So that's where we put all our documentation with the links to the Jira tickets.
So, answer your question. So, Jira and Confluence, they're completely different things. You cannot use one and one for another. There is always the need for you or for the client or for someone else to go in one place and see how it's done or how it should be done. Because, for example, at some period of time, someone will walk in, it will be a stakeholder or another architect, will ask you, how is this done? And what we'll say to him, go and find some ticket where it was done. It can be done once, it can be twice, it can be done, so it can be a chain of tickets. So there is always needs to be one document. It can be not always the Confluence. It depends. Not all the companies are buying the Confluence. Jira is like one, but you can take the spreadsheets, Google Docs, but they're always supposed to be one document. And in the end, when the project is done, you're giving this document to the client, so he can have a document how this is built.
Thank you, Dmitry. So just to conclude my presentation, for young architects or someone who considered to jump into architecture, one advice is really crucial. Build your stakeholder list. Just build it. Just build and try to group it and understand with whom you're communicating and from whom you can get the answers. The questions, eventually you will learn how to ask, but just try to understand that you hired as architect to ask questions which no one else asks. So just keep this in mind. And about the documentation, why I'm showing this slide, just because documentation starts from level 1, from enterprise context. And it's really hard to keep the documentation just in Jira if you start from enterprise context. So it's just slowly should go level down, up to the user story, which there still should be documented in how it was implemented from technical standpoint.
There always should be a person who is maintaining their document.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. I hope that you learned something. I try to share with you the problem statements and possible solutions. I hope next time there will be the same group of young architects, and we will